Hi everyone and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'll be doing my Sewing Wednesday tutorial and making this gorgeous camo coat. So let's get started with what you'll need. Mid-weight cotton fabric, a sewing machine obviously, matching thread, a loose tee to trace around, scissors, pins and a tape measure. So if you do want it quite long or short, you're just going to measure from your shoulder up until the point where you want it to stop. Try not to bend if you want it long. Just hold it by your hip and then make your way down, or you can sort of confuse the measurement. So to start off with, you're just going to fold your fabric in half to get a square and then fold it in half again. So there's a fold at the top and at the side. Just so when we're cutting, we don't have to cut twice or anything. We're just going to have the front and the back straight away. So once you have done that, you're just going to get the oversized tee that you're going to use to trace and tuck in the sleeves. Just make sure it's as tucked in as much as you can get it, and then fold it in half and place it on the fold. So there's a fold at the top and at the bottom, because this is going to work as a sort of pattern for us to create the shape of our coat and the neckline. Once you do have it in place, you can't see it that clear here, but all I did was cut the top of the fabric in the shape of my neckline, just using it as a guide. Now we have cut the neckline, we're just going to cut the side of our coat. So to make it oversized, we're just going to cut 2 inches away from our top that we're using as a trace. Yeah, that makes sense. From our top that we're using to trace, that's what I was meant to say. And we're just going to cut up until the armpit. So because we've made the width of our coat wider, we're going to have to make the sleeve opening wider. So we can do that about 2 inches or a bit less, because we're going to have to angle it and connect the two together so we get our armhole. You can just do this by using a pencil. You can't see it on this fabric clearly, but that's all I did. Once you have made the angle and you've marked it out, just cut it, but make sure that it connects naturally in a sort of curve. So now that you have the curve and you have that extra piece of fabric now off the whole thing, just pin the sides together where the curve is, because we're going to use that soon, and it's basically our sleeve. The pins I'm using are from IKEA. I'll list them in the description below. But it came from a set which was only £10. I'm not sure how much that converts to, but it's really good, and everything you get into it is so essential. So now that we have sorted out our sleeve, we're just going to create the front neckline, as it is lower than the back neckline. We're just going to get our top again and sort of mark where the front line angle starts and stops. And then we're just going to create another line just for you to see. If you're using a pencil, you can wash it and it will come out of your material, depending on the colour. So now that you've marked and you're happy with your marking, you're just going to cut that curve. This is a perfect time just to kind of neaten up your neckline, because it's the only time we'll be working in it or cutting it. So as you can see, the back of mine was sort of pointed, God knows why. But I'm just going to neaten that up and just like make sure it's a perfect curve shape, because I want it to sit on my neck line nicely. So if you followed those steps, this is what you should have so far, and the sides will be open because we're not closing them yet. So now we're just going to create the opening at the front. What you do is you work out the halfway point of the front of your jacket, and you only cut the front piece, not the back. So because you don't want it to be open at the back and front. And then you just cut up into the neckline. So now we are going to work on our sleeves. So we're just going to go back to that piece of fabric that we cut off before, and we're going to cut a straight line by the armpit section. I'm just going to call it that because it's the easiest way to describe it. As you can see, we've got 2 sleeves because we cut it on the fold, which makes it less time consuming. So as you can see, I'm just cutting across in a straight line, just making sure that I'm right at that point of where the curve stops. And then this is a great time to neaten up the opening of the sleeve, just so it's all straight and equal. So now we have our 2 sleeves. We're just going to attach them to our coat so that we can sew them together. So I connected the sleeve to the rest of the body of the coat by folding 1.5 centimeters roughly of the sleeve and just pinning it along. Take your time to do this so you can make sure that it's all an equal amount. If, like mine, there were certain parts that you didn't cut level, then you might have to don't throw nothing. You might have to fold it a bit more just so it's an equal curve. So now that we have finished pinning, we're just going to place the sleeve over the fold that we just created, just so it's leveled at the top. And then we're going to take each pin and connect it to the sleeve as we go along. As I got to the end, I noticed that my fabric didn't really meet the other curve or meet the end of the coat. So what I had to do was take some from the straight line just to connect it. And it's fine to do this. It's just going to make it all leveled and, like, when you're sewing, make it meet. So now I've put it on my mannequin just so you can see how it looks once it's pinned together. And now we're just going to make sure that it's all as together as we can get it, basically, just so when we're stitching we don't miss out any parts of the material, because that'll be annoying and you'll have to go over it again. Now it's time for us to stitch it together, and all we're going to do is do a straight stitch. It's always tricky to say that for me, but we're going to do a straight stitch along where we've pinned, and we're going to end up with a curve. So just take your time, and you can leave your pins in and do a bit and then move on, do a bit and then move on, so on and so forth. So yeah, once you take it to your sewing machine, just make sure that you take your time, because we only want to sew a 1.5 centimeter seam allowance, and we don't want it any bigger because we don't want to take away from the bagginess of the sleeve also. So just take your time and stitch and move the pins as you go along, and make sure that you're not sewing too much of the fabric underneath. Once you have done that, you can iron it or leave the ironing to the end, but I just prefer to iron it so it's neat and flat. So now you can see where we've attached the sleeve to the coat, and we're just going to move on to closing the armpit area and the side of our coat. So all we have to do for this part is pin along the armpit area and down the side, making sure that everything is all leveled. So once you've finished pinning along the side, we're just going to do a straight stitch to close where we have pinned. And you can do this by leaving a 1.5 centimeter seam allowance, and then it will come out looking like this. And then you can just iron over the side seams and get it all neat. So now we're going to focus on creating a professional finish on the opening of our jacket, where it basically opens and closes. So how you do this is by folding a tiny section or 0.5 centimeters of your fabric and then folding the same amount over it again. So you're basically rolling the hem. This is called a rolled hem. Yeah, that's the correct terminology. And then once you fold it and fold it again, as you can see I'm doing, you just stitch over where the fold ended, if that makes sense. And then just do a straight stitch, not forgetting to back stitch at the front and end. So you complete this on each opening of the jacket at the front, and then you'll see that it just creates a really nice finish and it's really neat, because you'll probably be touching it a lot there and you don't want it to end up fraying. So at this point we are basically done, but if you want to create a neater finish on the bottom, the armhole and the neckline, you can do a more simple hem by folding 1.5 centimeters of the fabric and then just doing a straight stitch along. To hold it in place, you can either iron it once you fold it, sorry, or you can pin it along and just stitch and remove the pin like I showed you before. Instead of doing the rolled hem, you can also do this on the opening at the front. So whichever one works for you, just do. But I didn't do this because I wanted mine to have more of a rugged finish. So now that you have completed all those steps, you are finished. This is a great and easy tutorial to do, but there are a lot of steps to it. But I hope you enjoyed making it, and tune in 2 weeks' time for my next Sewing Wednesday tutorial. You can also follow me on Instagram or on Twitter at Makeda_Davis. Thanks for watching.